Good evening, everyone. Peace and blessings, and welcome back to the STEM Files, where we serve as the voice of STEM talent and Black culture, where we highlight the best and the brightest in science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. On tonight's episode, we're going to be building with psychiatric nurse practitioner, Sister Ine Saka, and we're going to be talking about the psychiatry of the Black mind. It's very important that Black people in all walks of life understand how important mental health is. And our sister has found ways to incorporate nutrition into healing the mind. So family, please stay tuned for more after this.
You believe in these false prophets, I say I bet he lying. No football, New York City Giants. Girl dad, rest in peace to Kobe Bryant. When we teaching our babies, we teach them heavy science. Heavy science. When we teaching our women, we teach them heavy science. Heavy science. When we teach men, we teach them heavy.
Peace, I'm Ine Saka, integrative psychiatric nurse practitioner, coming to you to talk about how to integrate holistic practices with psychiatric practices in order to heal ailments of the mind. I am the next guest on the STEM Files. Stay tuned.
All right, family. Well, yes, this is the STEM Files once again, where we serve as the voice of STEM talent and Black culture. I'm excited for tonight's episode. First and foremost, we're going to go ahead and introduce ourselves. My name is Tariq Muhammad, aka Tariq Cardiac. I am a biomedical research scientist by background, specializing in cardiovascular pathobiology, which is the study of how diseases form in the heart and blood vessels, as well as developing various ways to treat these various diseases. I'm joined by my right hand, my best friend, my partner in righteousness, Jabril.
Yes, sir. All praises to Allah. Assalamu alaikum. What it do, what it is, family. Brother Jabril Muhammad, aka Jabrilian Engineer and Civilian Mechanical Engineer, with a focus on naval ship fluid systems and a background in material science and engineering, the study of the various material classes and how they can be utilized for different applications, making things faster, more efficient, more effective, and all around better. All praises. Always happy to be here and be on the STEM Files with our illustrious guest.
Yes, absolutely. And we are always joined by Sister Dr. Joy. She will be joining us shortly. Jabril, would you do the honors of telling the audience about our sister?
Absolutely. It's my honor and pleasure. We are introducing Sister Dr. Joy 2X, aka the Chi Mechanic. She's been studying and practicing traditional Chinese medicine for 13 years and ongoing. In TCM, we understand that the body innately knows and desires to heal itself. The medicine she offers is here to assist you in that journey like a mechanic for your vital energy. All praises to Allah.
Absolutely. And I hope that satisfies our sis, because Jabril said it exactly how she would say it, with all that energy and an illustrious poise to it. But yes, so we not, into, yapping and all that in the beginning of the show. We like to turn it over to our guests. First and foremost, I just want to say that this is a treat for me personally, because Sister Ine is actually on our local Ministry of Health and Human Services team here in Richmond, Virginia. So I work with sis in other areas, and I'm definitely excited to have her on. So without any further ado, let's get right into it. Sister Ine Saka, psychiatric nurse practitioner. All those letters behind her name, so we know. So
come on now, talk about the letters.
Right. So welcome to the platform, Sister Ine. How are you?
Thank you. I'm doing well. Thank you for having me. It's an honor.
Absolutely. So first and foremost, we want to kind of pick your mind a little bit, because that's what this episode is about, getting inside the head. So what drew you to the STEM Files? What made you say yes?
Well, for one, being on the board and the mission of the board to serve the community and on that level of health is what really resonated with me. I always consider myself a natural born healer. So anytime, I hear that, there's an opportunity to step into that work. And then I also love educating. So, to educate, one of my daily prayers is to allow, everything, my words, my services to be a divine medicine to the community. So when you told me that you're going to give me a platform to speak my words, I said, I'm with it.
Yes, ma'am. And I appreciate that. And that's what the STEM Files is all about. It's an opportunity for people such as yourself to have an opportunity to talk about not only what they do, but how it impacts our community. So thank you so much. Jabril, I'm going to turn it over to you.
All
I
praise
want
due
to
to
see
Allah.
how you start this off.
Yes, I would really love to read our sister's bio, and I'm trying to discipline myself because I had a question or comment right after she gave why she came on. So I'm gonna take a step back. I'm gonna calm myself, all right, and I'm gonna read this bio, and then we're gonna get into it. Praise be to Allah. So, our sister, she is an integrative psychiatric nurse practitioner, and it means that she integrates holistic knowledge of spirituality, lifestyle, diet, along with modern pharmaceutical medication, if needed. That's very key, if needed, for the healing of the mind. She is the founder of the Empathy Wellness Center, which is located in Richmond, Virginia, South Side. She currently offers psychiatric services in addition to colon hydrotherapy, as you cannot heal the mind if there is discord in the gut. No truer statement has ever been said other than the black man is God. That's a discussion for another time. Praise be to Allah. I have a question. This is always something I like to ask and reiterate, especially when I'm dealing with those in this area. So, can you break down what is psychiatry and how is it distinctly different from psychology?
Very good question. Really, I feel like they kind of intertwine with psychiatry, having that one level of the medication, pharmaceutical medication that comes with the psychology. As for me, when you come into my psychiatric practice, I'm not going to just prescribe medication. We're going to do some we're going to do some, I see that. We're going to do some psychology work. And psychology is typically trying to get an assessment of why you're here, what are some symptoms that you're having, trying to figure out what are the imbalances and the disharmonies going on in the mind. And then with the psychology comes some psychotherapy. So we're going to see if through talk and lifestyle modifications, if we can heal what's going on. And if at that point, it's determined that, we've done all of these things, we've assessed the situation, we have tried to talk through the situation, we've done lifestyle modifications, then the psychiatry comes in and it sets apart from the psychology, and that the medication comes on, the psychotropic medications.
Yes, man. Praise be to Allah. Thank you so much for making that plain. That was my understanding as far as you have, lifestyle shifts and you have this conversational and kind of detailed investigatory aspect to psychology, trying to get to the root as to what's going on, doing some exercises. And then like a psychologist does not have the ability to then prescribe medication like a psychiatrist does, but that psychology aspect psychiatrists will have as well. They'll have the added impact of being able to do that medical route. My last question, and then we'll get into it, Brother Tariq. So you mentioned two key words in your introduction. You talked about healing or being a natural healer and educator. And I think those are really two key things that I would say every woman is a natural healer or nurture a natural educator. Can you talk a bit about your background and how you even arrived at this current state when it is what you do for your business and what you chose to pursue in the STEM disciplines? How do those words, educator and healer, resonate with you in that way as far as how you got to where you are today?
It's a good question. It has been a journey. It's been a journey. A lot of different trials, a lot of different tribulations, but I feel like everything. I remember when I was going through some of my growing pains, my mother once told me, everything is in divine order. And now when I look back on it, it's true. Everything that we go through, irrespective of how difficult it may feel to the human flesh, is pre-written and it's there for a higher purpose if you train your eye to see the divinity in it. So, my mother, honestly, my mother started off my spirituality back when I was a little girl. She, first of all, we were always on a pescatarian diet because of her Islamic, upbringing. We came in as Moorish Americans, and then she took her Shahada and became, Sunni Muslim. But I kept the pescatarianism, and I feel like some of that, not having some of those heavy diet kind of helped facilitate while I was going through my traumas, and
Yes, ma'am.
then she was also into a lot of healing. So just doing women's healing circles. As a 7-year-old, I was the only kid at the women's healing circles getting my chakras connected.
Yes,
So
ma'am.
it started early, but in my adolescence, I disconnected. I disconnected. And it was a very interesting time until I came, I guess, back full circle in about my mid-20s. And it's just like, you know, they say the saying, life be lifing. So life started life.
Life be lifing. Come on.
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. And so when life started lifing, I was just like, well, what do I do? I was in such a state of darkness that I had no choice but to go back to the foundations that my mother had given me. And that was the spirituality. I got into some prayers. I got into cleaning up my diet and those things. And then later on, I got into nurse. I started off with an assisted living. We started assisted living in Baltimore. I loved the feeling of serving the community in that capacity. We would go out into the community. At the time, you know, we would even bring homeless people in because we had this row home in Baltimore. We would bring people in from the community. You need somewhere to stay? We take them to social services the next day, get them all situated to live, to be able to get the benefits of being our property. Give them their 3 meals, give them their medicine, give them housing, and I loved the feeling of being able to nurture people so much that I said, you know what? I think, and then I was also doing some pharmaceutical administrative work at Johns Hopkins during that time in Baltimore. So that, with my assisted living, says, you know what, I'm gonna go to nursing school. So I became an RN, and after being an RN, I had some concerns about some of the orders that were given for some of my patients by, you know, the doctors and the nurse practitioners, and I said, it sure would be nice if I could have more autonomy over the treatment of my patients.
Come on.
And then I decided, you know what, I'm gonna go back to school and become a nurse practitioner because I want to have more autonomy over the treatment plans of my patients. And so that's kind of how I came here. But the whole time, you know, you're going through these trials and tribulations. And so once I started to see things on other people, I'm like, I've been there. And so I was able to nurture people through it. And I said, and they appreciated my words. And I said, I might be on to something here.
Come on, go ahead. Come on, Muhammad.
So I started off as a family nurse practitioner doing primary care. And doing primary care, I realized that a lot of the ailments of the body were inflammatory diseases that initiated in the gut. And so I said, you know what, I'm gonna go become a colon hydrotherapist, but I'm gonna get these colons cleaned out. You know, and from there I realized that, you know, a lot of the anxiety and the depression that we experience in the human body originates from the foods that we're eating. And so I said, you know what, I'm going back to get my certification as a psychiatric nurse practitioner. We're gonna go deeper with this mind thing, because even in my primary care, I loved talking about mental health. It was just like, and my patients, they wanted me to be their therapist. And I'm like, whoa. I do primary care. I'm not a therapist, but we can do this. But I said, you know what, I enjoy mental health. And so I decided to go deeper. And I figured out I saw the connection between the gut and the mind. And then I went with it. And I feel like, you know, it was a higher calling upon me. And this is the first time in my life that I really, really feel as though I'm moving within my purpose. And it feels very good. It feels natural.
Praise be to Allah. I'm so excited, and I just wish or pray that all of us can be that excited for whatever course of study or whatever we choose to do with our lives, because that is that talking about what you do like that is what inspires people to go after what it is that they want to do, regardless of whether or not it's in STEM or not. So thank you for your vigor, thank you for your energy, and so many questions, Brother Tariq. Let's get it.
Yeah. Well, a lot of questions actually. But I want to go back a little bit on the educational side of things, right? So we're talking about being a nurse practitioner. You know, there are so many different ways to practice nursing, right? You have your LPNs, you got your RNs, your NPs, BSNs. You know, it's so many different areas to get into. So let's talk about some of the differences, right? Now, we've had nurses on the platform before. We've had LPNs. Matter of fact, we got some LPNs tapping in now. We've had some registered nurses. We've had some people who have backgrounds as a CNA or what have you. So I want to hear from you. What are some of the key differences between a registered nurse and now you're taking it up a level to being a nurse practitioner? We talked about the autonomy, but education-wise, what are some of the things that is required to become a nurse practitioner or to go from RN to NP?
You said some of the requirements?
Some of the educational requirements, some of the differences in how they do things in the clinical care setting? You know, just
Oh.
what are some of those key differences?
Well, honestly, a lot of the meat and potatoes of what a nurse practitioner is born in your RN phase. That is the core. And that's why a lot of people, and it's going to be some people that are not going to like me when I say this, but a lot of people sometimes prefer nurse practitioners over the MDs sometimes, only because of the bedside manner. We are taught to nurture and to educate.
Right.
That when we are as an RN, when we're discharging a patient from the hospital, it's our responsibility to do the education on how to take care of yourself once you leave. So once you become a nurse practitioner, you're just carrying all of that substance to a higher level to now prescribe your own medication. But I mean, honestly, there's really not there's not a whole lot of difference besides the ability to prescribe medication, because a lot of what I do is nurturing. I nurture people, and you have to love nurturing. You know, if in order to, I would say, in order to be a nurse, you have to love nurturing. And then it's just an incentive that, oh, well, this nurturer can write you a prescription as well now that I'm a nurse practitioner.
Got it. Now educationally, right? So you went to school to become an RN. Yeah. So after you became an RN, what were some of the things you had to do academically to move on to becoming an NP?
Good question. So I did clinical. So I had to shadow. I shadowed a couple of MDs for my pediatric hours when I was doing family nurse practitioner. So family nurse practitioner covers the whole lifespan. So I had to start from pediatrics. So I shadowed a few medical doctors that were pediatrics, and then I shadowed medical doctors that were in family practice. And let me see, there were a couple even nurse practitioners that I shadowed during that time. So a lot of clinical hours. So you pretty much go into the clinical setting and start doing what the medical doctors and the nurse practitioners are doing as a nurse practitioner student. And obviously during that time too, you're going to be doing some pharmacology courses to learn, to add on to your pharmacology, wisdom. And that was pretty much it. I think it's the clinical hours, getting that time and that clinical exposure, and actually seeing those patients by yourself or with the MD in the room, and that MD walking out after you've done everything to say, okay, this is what you missed. This is what, you need to brush up on, and it after, months and months, almost, I did think like a year and a half of that, you sit for your boards. And if you studied well and you've been exposed well, then you get your certification.
Absolutely. Oh, wow. And Sister Sabrina dropped something heavy in the chat. She said, definitely my OBGYN is an NP. I never see the MD. Yeah. That autonomy is so key, right? We're talking about the MD having a level of trust. Now, not to say that someone doesn't have an MD, but the MD having a level of trust in the NP to carry out certain things with that patient is so important. Can you talk about the trust factor between you, the patient, and the MD, if there is an MD involved? Because sometimes there may not be, especially if you're working in urgent care or what have you. But can you talk about, that teamwork aspect and that trust factor? Because in all areas of life, all areas of industry, there has to be a synergism that allows you to work smoothly, right, with you and your team members. Right. So has there ever been a time where, and we're getting deep into it, has there ever been a time where maybe you didn't see eye to eye with an MD on how a certain care plan can be carried out? Because sometimes, you have your beliefs and you have your way of looking at what you do, and the MD has theirs. Has there ever been a time where you kind of, butt heads and came to a solution of what can be done?
Well, not really. I think that everybody has, what you learn in clinical practice is that everybody has their own, medical practice it's an art. So
right.
Art, and as long as we're not, doing any harm, to come and criticize someone's art is insulting. So I wouldn't, it's been a rare occasion. well, I'm not going to say a rare. There have been occasions where I've seen, doctors prescribe certain medications and certain regimens, and I'm like, wow, they didn't mention, just the basics to do X, Y, Z, and maybe they don't need this stuff, or
Right.
but I don't step on toes because they, at the same time, they didn't do any harm. They just didn't do things the way I felt as though they should have been done. I experienced that more so as an RN. I saw certain situations. I'm like, he's prescribing this medicine and he hasn't even come to look at this patient. And, but at the same time, as long as it's not going to put the patient in danger, it's like you have to allow people to do their art. And so you have to honor people. Now, on a different spectrum, working as a nurse practitioner, I've run into two different things. I've run into MDs that look down on nurse practitioners. In the clinical setting, they call us mid-levels. And mid-levels are, they are obviously the upper level, and we're mid-level providers. But a lot of them lack respect for the nurse practitioners, and kind of, can be, I've experienced kind of, almost rudeness, when having to work shoulder to shoulder with a couple of MDs. It's only happened maybe once or twice, but most of how you doing, Sloan? Sorry, she want to say something? Oh, sorry.
No, I think that might have just been her connection.
Oh, okay.
Yes,
so, but I've only experienced that a couple of times, but for the most part, most physicians, medical doctors are happy to have us and very kind to us. But there are a few that look down on us, and there are some patients that do not want nurse practitioners. My grandmother was one of them. My grandmother, they tried to give me a nurse. This is before I was a nurse. They tried to give me a nurse practitioner. I want a doctor. So that's a challenge that we've run into. It's starting to become less and less as time goes on. I'm starting to see, but yeah, you still have patients that kind of look down on nurse practitioners as not being real, medical professionals.
All right, we're gonna turn it over to Sister Dr. Joy now. She's joined us. She's joined us on the STEM Files. Dr. Joy.
Yes, the third of the trio has graced us with her beautiful presence.
How you doing?
You on mute, sis.
You on mute, sis.
You see? Assalamu alaikum, family.
Wa alaikum salam, man.
It's good to meet you, sis. Ine?
Yes.
Praise be to Allah. Welcome to the show. I'm just catching up. I had some tire issues with my vehicle this afternoon, so forgive me for being a little tardy, but catch me up. I loved your biography. Like, this is so impressive, and I have so many questions for you, so welcome.
Very briefly, we were just covering, I asked, some of the difference between psychology and psychiatry. Schooling aspects. We were talking about education and how she got to where she was, and kind of leaning into, I think the next thing we were going to go into, I was going to go into the title a bit, talking about that Black mind aspect. But that's basically it. So definitely go ahead, Sis Dr. Joy, the floor is yours.
Sis, I really, this is such an important topic because not enough, especially for, I think, people in the Nation of Islam, world over. We're talking about not only women's mental health, but Black men's mental health as well. So this is something that is so crucial for us in this lifetime, especially when foods and food products and chemicals and things, they're always changing, so what can you tell us in your own research and your own, trials even of food and food therapy and Black mental health?
Well, high fructose corn syrup.
Come on.
Let's start there.
One of my biggest pet peeves is when we go into our local stores in our neighborhoods, I would say about 80% of the foods have this high fructose corn syrup in them. Yeah. And if the research has shown that the high fructose corn syrup, not only is it just, a sugar that, it stimulates the hyperstimulates the brains of our babies and makes them, oftentimes I feel as though supports the diagnosis of ADHD.
Absolutely.
Talk about it. Absolutely.
They're eating these foods before they go to school, and because this is what they make available to us in our neighborhoods, and we're not making the connection to, you know, what we're feeding the babies and the behaviors, and then also the diabetes, you know. So
Right.
it's just, a lot of it starts with, you know, the foods that they put in our neighborhoods. I mean, and
All right, bear with us, family. We got some technical issues.
sorry about that. Oh, did I? Okay, sorry.
You're back.
Do not disturb. I don't know how they got.
The science was too heavy, sis. That's all. The science was too heavy.
Right.
We back at it like a snack addict.
But yeah, I'm always educating people in the mental health world. When you come in, you know, you're saying, you know, I have ADHD. I think I have ADHD. One of the first questions I want to ask is, you know, well, how much sugar are you taking in? Sugar and caffeine, those are my two things. But even with the depression and anxiety, how much sugar are you taking in? How are your
Come
bowels?
on.
Because
Yes.
a blockage in the bowels, people don't realize that once that stuff starts to back up in the colon, it starts to seep into the bloodstream, and
Come
it
on.
triggers things.
Come on.
Absolutely.
So, you know, are you having nice, big, robust bowels on a routine basis? And, you know, sometimes people get uncomfortable, but these are real, like before I start pumping you up with these pharmaceutical medications, I want to make sure that we're doing everything that's right by the body first, because the body is very intelligent.
Yes, ma'am.
But
Yes,
I don't know if I got off topic from your question.
No, not really. So I want to hone in a little bit further, though. You know, like we're growing up, you know, we're always taught, you know, like to like listen to the people with the white coats, you know, and they know what's best. And, you know, here's this whole laundry list of things that could possibly be wrong, including things like diabetes. And then our families are, you know, really prone to having this mentality, this mindset of like, oh, this just runs in the family. This is a genetic thing, right? And so I'm just talking in terms of like physical ailments, you know, rheumatoid arthritis, things like this. But can you break down the science a little further of exactly what it is you do, not only as a nurse practitioner, but as a holistic medical practitioner and spiritualist, when you're dealing with, you know, things like depression, anxiety, ADHD? Like, are these also, you know, they just run in the family, it just so happens to be, or, you know, let us tell us, teach us.
Yes. So one of my questions typically when treating depression, even anxiety, is, well, is this what I call organic, or is it inorganic? Organic is an imbalance that's happening inside of the body. And that's something that, you know, it could be something that you're doing, or it could be something that you have experienced, like a trauma that it has thrown off your neurotransmitters that are making you act in a way that you wouldn't naturally act. And then we get into inorganic, and those are external factors. Is there someone hurting you? Is there a medication? I mean, is there a medication or a food that you're eating that isn't serving you? Is there a stressor that is just beating you over the back from time and time again, that's just impeding on your ability to be happy? So once we can break down if it's situational, or what I go back to organic or inorganic, then I'm better in a space to help to determine, you know, if we're going to do just a holistic approach or do the medication approach. Most of the time for the situational, I guess the spiritual helps with all situations, but the inorganic, the organic of depression and anxiety are situations that someone just says, you know what, my life is good, my life is great, and for some reason I just can't get to happy. For some reason I just can't feel. And I'm just like, okay, now we're dealing with some kind of organic something. Something may have happened here, whether it's something that happened a long time ago. And a lot of the times, this is where psychotherapy comes in, because psychotherapy can get to the root of what happened that led to that imbalance that you're feeling. You may have forgotten about it, but your tissues have not. You know, so we're still harboring it. But the organic is typically something that at some point we would do medication for. Now, the inorganic is, you know, I'm just, you know, finances are not adding up. I'm depressed. I'm going through a breakup, just things of this nature. Okay, well, how much time are you spending with spirituality? I'm always reminding people that, you know, as human beings, we are just spirits having a human experience. And, you know, being able to sit down with yourself quietly and have conversations with something higher than yourself is a way that you recharge your battery. So I always refer patients to, I leave religion out, you know, but I always say, because most of the time I ask people, you know, what's your spiritual practices? And they always tell me, well, I'm a Christian, I'm Muslim. No, not your religion. What are your spiritual practices? And so, and no one, and then they draw a blank. So I give them a package. And the spirituality simply is putting a compass on your phone, figuring out where the east is. Why are we turning to the east? Because that's where the sun rises. The sun, no one can negate that the sun is the source of all the electricity in life as we know it, including the electricity going through your heart right now. So when you are making it intentional to turn your heart to the east, to sit down and meditate and affirm your wellness and affirm the things that you want to see happen in your life, you're recharging your battery. So that's one of my holistic approaches to treating depression and anxiety, because anxiety is just a lot of the times trying to take matters into your own hands and getting frustrated because you can't, you know. So a lot of the times you have to surrender. And how do we surrender? We turn to the direction of the sun and remind ourselves that there is something greater than ourselves that's in control of all of this.
Right.
Wow.
Yes, ma'am.
Can I just really quick, Sister Joe, you on a roll, but she brought something up. You said you lead, and this is very important. I really want everybody tapped in and all of us to really listen. Sis said she leaves religion out and she asked the people, what is your spiritual practice? Now, in all honesty, this is very important. Those two things should be the same. But the way things are done today, religion is like, what title do I call myself? And spiritual practice is something like, well, that we put on ourselves to basically avoid religion because we don't want people to tell us what to do. But spiritual practice is really your religion. What you do to get yourself closer to the author of your own life is that which binds you back to the creator, or religion, to bind back or to get yourself back to that straight path. So what you're really doing, sis, is you're reacquainting, when you have these conversations, your clients, your patients with themselves and what it is that allows them to be their best self. And that's what true religion is. So we have to remember that to be truly spiritual is to be religious and vice versa, right? And everything that goes along with that, if we reclaim and remember what it is and who it is that we say we are, and then lean into those practices, a lot of times these issues and mental instabilities that we have will be rectified because we've reconnected to our source of strength. And that's really, for me, that's psychiatry in the Black mind. That's where that becomes so important, because we have to regain knowledge of self, right? Enemy, right? God, and the time must be done. But thank you so much, sister, for that. That was huge.
Absolutely. And family, before we go any further, we actually at that 30-minute mark. It's time for our quick commercial break. A lot has been said in the last 30 minutes, and I see Dr. Joy chomping at the bit to ask some more. I'm eager to ask some more. We have some incredible questions from the audience. So at this time, we're going to go ahead and hear from the Final Call newspaper.
Now you can get the same uncompromising truth you've come to expect from the Final Call newspaper on all your connected devices. Subscribe to the Final Call digital edition today. Go to subscribe.finalcalldigital.com.
Peace. This is Naya Muhammad, a future architect, and you're watching The STEM Files.
All right. And once again, that audio was still not supposed to be that loud. So if they jarred your ears, family, I do apologize. So let's get back into it. Well, we talking about the final call news. Bro, what's this week's edition all about?
Yes, sir, family. For those who don't know, I don't know if you've been living under a rock, but we proclaim proudly to be members of the Nation of Islam under the guidance of the Honorable Minister Farrakhan, and this is our number one teaching tool for our purpose. This is to the resurrection of the Black man and woman in America and the world. The latest issue, volume 43, number 42, weather and warning. It says, as Hurricane Beryl leaves a trail of destruction, an intense heat wave intensifies in America and the world, continue to being bombarded by natural disasters. These events have been prophesied, and we have been taught what is happening and why. But will we take heed? The final call, family, that trumpet that has been sounded, really since 1930 is a very real trumpet, and we really need to heed. I know for those, whether you're in where I am right now, either in Atlanta, Philadelphia, right, Richmond, Virginia, Greensboro, North Carolina, what have you, especially on the East Coast, we've been going through a major, major, major heat wave and are really just getting some level of reprieve, if you will, or just less intensity.
Yes,
A family, regardless of what you believe, who you believe in, something's going on today, and we really need to heed this call. So tap in, right? If you are on your devices, which we all are, phone, tablet, desktop, what have you, go to finalcalldigital.com and set up your digital subscription so you can get this powerful, powerful paper and this good news you can use to your phone or device every week and read it. And if you're in one of the areas that I mentioned and you want it weekly physically, I know like myself, I still like to mark mine up, highlight them just like we used to do growing up. So family, again, tap into your Final Call newspaper, stay abreast of current events, as you can always have a high level conversation. And when you come around, family, that's the Final Call newspaper, that good news you can use.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, bro. We appreciate that. Sister Dr. Joy, I saw
Yes,
you were
sir.
about to ask another question. Did you have another one?
Yes, thank you. Sis tapped into something for me about differentiating between anxiety and depression, right? And I just think that this episode is so important when we're talking about mental health and the faculties of our Black and Brown nation. Like anxiety, I think you had mentioned, was really worry about the future, like we're just so caught up and wrapped in this like state of worry, especially with, things like the weather, the election coming up, all of these things just have us worried, especially coming out of the pandemonium. And then depression is really about grieving, really, from the past. And so I wanted to talk a little bit about actually how you're dealing with that with your clientele, especially within your empathy wellness center, your holistic wellness center. I think that that's absolutely amazing, and how hydrotherapy plays into that role of helping people to navigate out of those situations. Like, what is hydrotherapy?
Okay. Well, for one, when it comes to depression is one of my favorites because a lot of the times depression is just a spiritual warfare that can be healed through diet and prayer and meditation. I don't like to say prayer because sometimes people say, so I try to say affirmation because the honest truth is that, our words are very powerful. So when you start speaking things, I always tell people, even if you don't believe what you're saying, just speak kind things over yourself. And constantly ask yourself, what story am I rerunning in my mind all the time? Every single day. What is it that I'm running? Because there's a story. There's a story that's going through our minds where we're in a depressed state. And a lot of the times it's a low vibrational story and it feeds our lower self and it keeps us there. And we're not even aware of it. We just live under that umbrella. And until someone makes you aware of it and kind of guides you to speak something against it, you're unable to raise your vibration. But what I'm seeing is that for women, especially women that are 35 and older, a lot of our depression, well, not even just 35 and older, I would say in general, a lot of our depression is hormonal. So, one of the first things I always try to ask, the women that are experiencing depression is, how are your cycles? Are they regular? Are they irregular? About a week or two before your menstrual bleeding is that we call that the luteal phase, where some people say that the PMS is happening. How severe is the PMS? Are you extremely angry, or if you are just trying to get a feel for that? Because typically if there is severe depression, anxiety, heightened anxiety, irritability, anger, about a week or two before the menstrual bleed, we're dealing with PMDD, which is premenstrual dysphoric disorder, which is a severe PMS, but it typically is because of imbalances in the progesterone. And how we classify that versus just regular depression or regular mood disorder is once that menstrual bleed happens, do you feel better, sis? Do you feel And
Come
once
on.
you feel better, then that means that we're dealing with PMDD as opposed to just generalized anxiety and depression. And so with that, we have ways of treating that. From a holistic standpoint, I'm typically, I suggest, I can't prescribe because I'm not an herbologist, but I suggest, if you're not interested in medication, you can try some evening primrose or evening primrose herb or a chasteberry with 500 milligrams of vitamin C a day during that time. That helps to and what those herbs do are they help to balance out the progesterone levels. And once the progesterone levels are stabilized, because typically before menopause, when we're perimenopausal, it's a progesterone imbalance. It's not until later on that it becomes an estrogen issue. And so that vitamin C, about 500 to 1,000 milligrams of vitamin C with that chasteberry or that evening primrose help to balance out those progesterones. And so I'm like, and once I talk to them again, they're like, yeah, that helped. Okay, cool. So we know that we're dealing with PMDD, you're not depressed, you're hormonal. Okay, fine. A lot of the times I run into that too with women that are on birth control. So we're trying to figure out, we have this synthetic hormone going on. It's making you feel psychotic. What are we going to do? I mean, is not having a baby more important than being psychotic? We got to make decisions. And sometimes it is. So we just have to deal with the psychosis and the way we have to deal with it, but oh, I'm sorry, huh?
No, man, just go ahead.
But yeah, some women opt to come off of the birth control, and when we come off the birth control, the mood stabilized. And I'm like, okay, well, you gotta be careful, but at least you mentally you're happy. Now, when we start getting into and typically for my males, I would say that my males are more situational. The male depression is typically more situational, and it's typically dealing around finances and love life. That I don't get a lot of men coming in with depression. Whenever the men come to my office, especially the men of color, it's because they've been sent to me by the hospital for a psychotic episode. And those psychotic episodes typically stem from things like schizophrenia or a manic episode of bipolar. And so these are situations that can be easily missed. Even myself, I realized, not to overshare, but my ex-husband, he was recently diagnosed with schizophrenia. And I was like, that makes sense.
That makes sense.
But a lot of this goes undiagnosed.
That's nasty work.
Yeah, it goes undiagnosed, and you just think that this person has a bad temper or they're just not nice, and the whole time they have been subjected to untreated PTSD, all types of various traumas piled up, and they had an explosion, and finally it took incarceration for them to get evaluated and written off with a mental diagnosis. So all that to say, not a lot of depression that I see with the African American males, unless they have lost a loved one secondary to gun violence, something like that. I may see them come in, or situational. Now, getting to the colon hydrotherapy, because I'm licensed in medicine, I have to be careful with pushing holistic services on anyone. So I'm very careful with putting that out there. Everything that I offer is on my website. But no, I'm not going to, while you are in a session with me doing a psychiatry session, say, you know what, I think you can go for a good cleanse. I'm not going to do that. Because it's something that, it's just, it could be shunned, in the pharmaceutical or in, I guess, the medicine world. So you can see what I offer on my website, and if you feel as though it's something you would be interested in, then you have to schedule that separate from the psychiatric services. But I have made the suggestion of a good cleanse. I make the suggestion of a good cleanse all the time, especially for my depressed and more so anxious patients. for the depression and anxious and anxious patients all the time. How are your bowel movements? I think you can go for a good cleanse. And the good cleanse does not have to be a colon hydrotherapy. It could be you going to a good health food store and asking for a natural something to push through the colon and get all the stuff out of you and see how you feel then. But one thing's for sure is that I do, I do always suggest that detoxing the body and starting from a ground zero or a fresh foundation. If we're talking about healing, I always make that connection because I'm an integrative psychiatric nurse practitioner. But as far as the colon hydrotherapy, when you come in for colon hydrotherapy, there is a questionnaire. And on that questionnaire, it just asks about some of the indications, such as constipation, just different things that you have. Mm-hmm. And then we have some contraindications that that are listed that, if you have these issues, you cannot have a colon hydrotherapy. But most of the time, or if you go on my website, there's a whole a nice write-up of the benefits of colon hydrotherapy. And so once someone comes around to scheduling themselves, they have a pretty good idea of what they're signing themselves up for. But yeah, and I think I do on the website kind of make that connection between, some of the mood disorders. We definitely talk about some of the inflammatory disorders, the rheumatoid and things of that nature on the website, because that rheumatoid is definitely an inflammatory disease that has been shown to start in the colon.
Praise be to Allah.
We talking about psychiatry in the Black mind, right?
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
We really want to get into that title because we mentioned a couple of things. We mentioned a lot of things that are plaguing us, and all these things in every community, but especially the Black community: divorce, financial problems, gun violence, violence in the streets, a whole litany of things, right?
Yes.
Why is it so important that we deal with the traumas that have affected us over time for us to truly be what Allah God wants us to be?
The concept of Sankofa.
Come on.
You have to know where you're coming from in order to know where you are headed. So I have to know. Once upon a time, my mother told me when I was, acting up, ripping and running, and she knew that I may have been partaking in a little alcohol or something. And she said, you got to be careful with that. Our family has a very high addiction rate to alcoholism. So when she said that, it made me scared. I don't want that. You know what I mean? So it was it's certain. You have to know yourself. But if you don't know, what I guess some of the challenges of your ancestors and some of the challenges of your bloodline, you're not in a position to heal it. So what I realize is, right now we are, we're spiritual beings. And so not spiritual being, energetic beings. So the energy, I'm always telling my children this, whoever you sit around the most, you become. So it's just, if someone is telling me that, this is, a situation of my bloodline and things of that nature, there's certain people in my family that, I'm gonna hug you up, I'm gonna give you love, and then I know I can't spend too much time with you, but I'm gonna send you prayer and, do whatever it is that needs to happen so that I can raise the frequency of my bloodline from a distance. But, you don't have to, I guess, be actually in the trenches to heal it, but you have to understand that you better than the company that you keep, so you just and you have to know where your people have come from and the trials and tribulations that they've been through in order to start figuring out a game plan for healing yourself and the people in front of you.
Yes, ma'am. I think this reminds me a lot about when we had another guest, a wonderful sister, Dr. Christina Parks, and she was speaking on epigenetics and her research through epigenetics, which is really like the scientific way of saying Sankofa. It's referring to how the things like diet, physical activity, stress levels, and things of this nature not only affect our own health, but those of us in the future. And so that's why this is very important. And I also really want to come back to this. I think this is like very, very important, especially for our brothers. You had said that it took it took practitioners a while to even give them an actual diagnosis of any kind of mental health, a diagnosis. I feel like that is so, that's one of the plethoras of reasons why Black men do not receive the kind of mental health care that they need. And what can we do as sisters who are, loving and wanting to uplift the Black man? What can we do or say, or what facilities or things do we have? What's in our own toolkit for them? Because this is especially in my experience as being a holistic provider, yes, it's situational, yes, it's financial, but I mean, that's so terrifying to also know that it takes a psychotic episode for them to even be recognized that something is amiss. I mean, that is just off the wall to me.
And not just a psychotic episode, incarceration.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times it's not caught until a court-appointed mental health diagnosis is ordered. And so I would say there are so many instances of this, of our men locked up, secondary to psychotic episodes where, they were first diagnosed with the mental illness that has been going on, so, but to get back to your question, as women and as the healers of, in the community, I think that, well, from a psychiatric standpoint, some tools, you ask for tools. I think that it would be great, if the women, the household, even for ourselves, for our own, use, you can download a PHQ-9. That is a depression scale. You can download a GAD-7. That is a anxiety assessment. And you can download a ASRS. That is a ADHD assessment. These are all assessed questionnaires that you can do at home. But if those assessments are not looking the way they need to look, then and there's other assessments that you can print out and just sit down and have quiet time and say, hey, check these out, see what any see if any of these questions resonate with you. Especially if you find that your partner's light is becoming dim. Just ask them, are you open to, and these questionnaires are only like maybe 15 questions long. These questions are like 15 questions long. But if you have these tools, and if you create a space of comfort and sacredness to allow your partner to be open enough with their responses, you can get a real response. And if that PHQ-9 is looking like depression, then you know that, okay, we got to do something deeper. Even if they're doing something and they say, I don't want to go to no doctors, then sis, what we're gonna do, we're gonna start getting into some holistic work. We're gonna start juicing him. We're gonna start giving him some green juices and some greens. We're gonna take him off of some of those heavy meats, especially the red meats, the pork, the fried foods. We're going to allow him to eat the foods that grow, under the sun's rays, so that every time he eats, he's absorbing the sun's energy. We're going to create organized time of prayer, or organized time of meditation. We're gonna run him some bath water. Black men don't like.
Come on.
Black men a bath.
Spot time.
Myrrh oil in that bath, some eucalyptus and some sea salts, and let him sit.
That's right. Treat your man. And gentlemen, brothers, I really wanted to just ask y'all, and perhaps you could emphasize on why the brotherhood is so important when we're talking about psychiatry in the Black male mind.
Oh,
tell us about the FO.
He's talking to us.
Yes, sirs. Yes.
You want to go first, Brody?
No, I'm gonna pivot off of you. Good.
All right. So, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Got to start. This is heavy.
That's right.
I want to start with something. I'm going to move into the brotherhood question. So, as sis was talking, and pardon me if y'all saw me looking down, but I was trying to hold on to something so I could come back to this. But as you were talking, Sister Ine, I kept coming to this axiom in physics called the Pauli exclusion principle, which basically the gist of that is two objects can't occupy the same space at the same time. And that then links me to the lessons given to us by Master Muhammad and our supreme wisdom, where we are given the average speed of thought, which is 24 billion miles per second. Now,
Come
for
on.
anyone listening, that simply means that thoughts are things and that they basically move instantly, right? And everything that we see, right, in creation is a thought or was a thought at one point and then came into fruition. So what does that mean? What you're talking about when you're dealing with people in low vibrations, high vibrations, and we're talking about how we relate to one another and how we deal with our mental psychosis, we have to either change the nature of a negative thought or replace a negative thought with a positive one, because then that will then impact our behavior and move going forward. So when you now talk about the brotherhood or men coming to you, what I'm hearing, because you mentioned a lot of things or reason they come to you is situational. The situation was heavy because what happens a lot of times, men and particularly black men, our issues stem from frustrated desire to be productive. So you
Come
talk about
on.
the finances, you talk about the intimate life or things. A lot of times we have grandiose ideas of things we want to do and things we want to be, and for whatever reason, we're unable to attain that in the manner or time frame that which we desire to do so. And then this goes unaddressed because we don't want to seem weak to our homeboys,
Come
and
on.
we don't want to impress a stressor on our wife and our family. So now we go time in and day out, and then we snap. And now we come to you when what we needed, maybe from our wife, or we needed from our brotherhood, this goes back to the brotherhood point, is to express what's going on so that we can be our direction can be reconfigured toward our purpose, whether self-affirmed
Yes.
or that which is an innate. And a lot of times, we as men in particular are happiest when we're doing something productive. So
Come
the
on.
more we're affirming in ourselves what we're going to do with our day, what we're going to be, and how we're going to accomplish the thing, it allows us to counteract feelings of doubt, feelings of anxiety, deep depression, because we're constantly seeing an output that which is we're able to transfer what's here and bring it outside of here to for those around us to be able to partake in and benefit from. So brotherhood, and as I close, is so important because these are brothers or should be brothers with shared experience. And all of us at some point in life have been ashamed of something that either we've done or not been able to do. And it becomes hard for us to share those things because we feel that we're less than because we didn't, or we're not men because we couldn't, or what have you. So those things I think will allow us to come to you sooner because we, I have a situation. I really need to talk to somebody. And then you won't tell us, oh man, you a man, you can do it. You'll affirm, okay, you're experiencing a thing. Let's
That's
talk about
right.
it. What does your diet look like? Right? What is are you
Yes.
working out? Right? What is your spiritual practice?
Come
Right?
on.
You'll ask us these questions early on. So now we'll be like, you know what? If we go through and we listen to what was said, we'll be able to hopefully, move forward in a healthier way and even engage with the brotherhood, with our spouses, with our children, with our family and community in a more positive manner. So that's what I would have to say.
Praise be to Allah. Teach fruit. That's right.
But go ahead, Tariq.
Yeah, well, I don't have much to say after that. Bro, really, took it home with that one. But what I can say is this, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad teaches us, and Tupac even said this in the song, how can the devil take my brother if he's close to me?
Come on.
So the relationship between the black man is so important. You live longer when you have good relationships with your brothers, right?
Right.
Now, if you have a problem in your life and you come to your woman about it, that's great. She has the feminine energy that can comfort you and heal you, but your brother reminds you of your manhood.
That's right.
He
That's
reminds
right.
you that you are a man at the end of the day, right? Now, there have been times, and Jabril and I were really close. When I say my right hand, I mean that. But there have been times, where we've been on the phone and things have gotten a little bit emotional, but we've quickly reminded each other, okay, look, at the end of the day, we grown ass men. Forgive my vulgarity. We grown men, but that reminder of, okay, I understand what you're going through, but at the end of the day, we're men. And men stand 10 toes. We stand on business, and we're strong about what we believe in. if we believe, if it's something that we're really passionate about. So just, understanding that the relationship between a man and a woman and a man and his brother is two different things. It's two different ways to respond to an individual in a situation. But that devil can't creep in if your brother's shoulder to shoulder with you. So being tight, even if it's just one brother, being tight with your brother is very important. That's how life is sustained.
Come on, those
Yes,
ranging
sir.
in ranks. Talk about that. That's
Standing
right.
as a solid wall, yes, sir.
Go on. Dr. Joy pulling all kind of stuff out the
That's what I'm
brother's
saying.
book. Okay.
This is
Praise
STEM
to
files
Allah.
right here.
Oh
But
man.
we have a question from the audience.
Yes.
This is from brother Tony out of Miami, Florida. And he said, greetings and assalamu alaikum family question. As it relates to guiding parents, children, and families to better diets and holistic wellness, can you share examples of some of your biggest wins? Now this question is so important because when we're on the STEM files and we're talking about someone's career, it's important to talk about the successes, the things that have made your career worth it. What are some of the things that have, created a sense of satisfaction for you in your career? I'm sure with as many years as you have in your field that you have some good wins that you would love to share with the STEM files.
Well, when it comes to practicing, I've always only treated adult patients. However, as a mommy of 4, I can definitely say that, some of the wins and have surrounded reducing the amount of sugars in the diet, making time to even get in the kitchen with the children, because a lot of the times, we're trying to plant these seeds of don't eat this, don't eat that, but then they don't know what to eat, and then it just becomes unfair. So sometimes we get little cookbooks, or even sometimes I may be on social media and find some easy go-to healthy quick meals, and I may call the children to the kitchen and have them, these are the ingredients, and we're going to put and it's just real simple stuff. Quick, today I saw some brownies that were made out of bananas, cocoa powder, and maple syrup.
Right,
Let me get that. Let me get that.
Yeah, stuff like that, things that taste good, but letting them know that, and so that they can see that this is what we're putting into the ingredients. This is how it tastes. It still tastes yummy, but it doesn't have all the chemicals. You know exactly where it came from. This is how we plant the seeds. So just getting in the space of having them come into the kitchen with you, as opposed to always not being that. Because I used to be the mommy that's, oh no, you can't eat that. No, and it becomes burdensome. And then when they go out with their friends, they see those Sunny D's and Gatorades and hot chips and Takis, and it's just
Talk
like
about tacos.
they feel like they're missing out on something. So instead, you create, other alternatives for them. One of my go-tos for snacks, I try to go to stores like, Trader Joe's now. May not get everything from Trader Joe's, but I know that their snacks are going to be, safe snacks that don't have all the weird chemicals and sugars and all of those things in them. And, we kind of just build the grocery list, from there when it comes to lunch preparations and things of that nature. But honestly, my biggest thing with the children is just trying to watch the amount of sugars. And for my girls, just trying to watch the amount of chicken and flesh that we feed them, because all of these fibroids and these ovarian, they're coming from the flesh, and they're coming from too many starches and carbs from these chemically foods. So if you have daughters, I would say try to abstain from feeding them so much flesh. Get into creative things to do with beans. You can make lentil bean burgers, black bean burgers, mushroom
Navy bean burgers. Come
things
on.
of that nature, to get them off of that flesh, because the flesh is really causing a havoc on our young girls' uterus, on our young girls and our women's uteruses.
That's right.
Voila. I believe Muhammad said vegetarian diet is best, and we learned that in How to Eat to Live, books 1 and 2. He also, he gave us if we're going to eat meat, certain meats to eat, how to prepare them, where to get them from. But all that's so important. I just want to very quickly before we go to this question from Brother Damon, hopefully, you know, going back to this this question or this topic of psychiatry. I don't know why I'm struggling with that word. In the Black mind, we learn that man is mind, right? So
Mm-hmm.
to be a man, to be a woman, to be a human being and experience life on that plane, your mind is of a certain constitution. And in Black, we learn in the Nation of Islam, it's not a color, right? It's the essence from which all color comes.
Until it comes. That's
So
right.
you're now striving to have a lived experience that is in alignment with your essence, that then therefore impresses upon you a certain mentality. So as for all of us that are listening, I really want us to really rethink how we talk to ourselves, which
Mm-hmm.
then impacts how we talk to others. And then stop trying to live life and be successful by yourself. A lot of times, and this is where, Islam for me, Islam is not designed to be a solo way of life, right? You're supposed to do things in a collective manner or with community. And I think a lot of times what happens, and we were just talking about brotherhood, is a lot of the things we go through things by ourselves. I'm strong enough, I can do this. And we don't want to talk to people. And a lot of times, just a conversation, something as simple as going outside and taking our shoes off and standing on the grass and discharging some of these things that we have to rebalance ourselves can be so important. But
Mm-hmm.
don't underestimate what a conversation with someone can do to help you reclaim your righteous Black mind, as what
That's
Denzel
right.
said in that movie, right? That's important. So I just want to say again, as we continue and get ready to close, thank you, Sister Ine, for saying what you said and bringing it to our attention. It really did a lot for me personally tonight, and my co-hosts know I've shared some things or what have you, but life be lifing. But we have to learn how to live life and not let life live us.
Come on.
You know.
That's a
It's an
shirt. That's a shirt.
experience.
That's a shirt.
It's a divine experience.
That's right.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Absolutely. So we got one final question from the audience. This is from Brother Damon out of, I believe this is the brother from San Francisco. Could this be parallel to Dianetics? And what's to be done to you? And what must be done to you? Maybe it's supposed to be a two, or what's to be done to you that causes somatic illnesses? Example as to what she said that happened to this. What happened to the cells? Excuse me, I'm messing up this
Take
question.
your time.
The mind communicates to the cells, right? So
Yeah.
I believe what he's saying is, the
Oh,
honorable listeners,
epigenetics.
right.
Yes. So he has a twofold question. So yes, it is related to diagenetics. Diagenetics is a practice that is, I want to say, it's founded by the Church of Scientology, but they do a lot
Yes.
of work with healing, the human mind, and one of their goals is to get to a pure state. And the pure state is, to pretty much ground zero of the mind, being pure of any kind of hatred, sadness, or anything of that nature. And so that's the goal of diagenetics, to get to a pure state. And so yes, a lot of the time in psychiatry is, pretty much built off of diagenetics. It's not as deep as diagenetics. Diagenetics is, it's more so a psychology than it is a psychiatry. But to answer to the somatic, yes, what we experience triggers somatic pain and experiences, because whenever our adrenaline system is triggered by stress, it causes inflammation. Inflammation can lead to aches and pains wherever the body is processes it the most. So yes, somatic pain secondary to depression, anxiety, or even other mental elements, illnesses, is a thing for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
Absolutely.
Praise be to Allah.
And I
Sis,
was just
I'm gonna be selfish. I want to make sure we follow up after this. I have two individuals I'd love to connect you with. One is my sister-in-law, and one is like a little sister of mine here in the mosque. They're interested in pediatric neurology and child psychiatry. And I sent this to both of them, but I want to make sure that I always do my best to utilize my network to help with mentorship. And I was like, I really think it would benefit, both of them would benefit from a conversation, a series of conversation with you. So I want to make sure I make that happen with your permission.
I would love that. I would absolutely love that. keep me in good company. That's one of my
Yes,
prayers,
ma'am.
that Allah always surrounds me with good company, and that I am good company to others.
Mm.
That's right. And Sister Ine will definitely be back on our next episode, August 1st, for a part 2, because this conversation, just like the holistic grocery shopping series, could be multiple episodes, all the way up to 10 if we wanted to.
Right.
So I'm looking forward to having her back August 1st, August 25th. Most of us will be in Chicago for the national training, where our student assistant supreme captain, Brother Abdul Aziz Muhammad, will be teaching the nation on various aspects of martial arts. So that week we will not be going live, but August 1st we would definitely be back with all new content. Part 2 with our beloved sister, Psychiatry in the Black Mind. Sister Ine, is there anything you'd like to leave the audience with before we?
This has been a blessing, and I just realized that as far as with the diagenetics, it was a clear state, not a pure state. I apologize. I wanted to correct myself.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Clear, but other than that, this has been very refreshing. I give thanks for you all for allowing me to exercise within my purpose. So thank you.
Yes, ma'am. You're very welcome. Thank you.
Absolutely. All right,
Ooh.
Dr. Joy, what about you? Any closing remarks? And I would personally love to see the two of you collaborate business wise, because both of your healthcare centers are, life. So I would love to see that. And you're both here in the Mid-Atlantic region. We got to do some type of content where you guys come together and film some stuff. That'll be dope. But Dr. Joy, did you have any last remarks?
I don't. I mean, I just thank you for being our guest, and I'm looking forward to hearing more in the future episodes. And yes, just let everybody know how to contact you, what your information is, so that people can learn more from you and about you, sis. Just drop all your social media handles and everything. You have your chance now.
Oh yeah, my social media is on there. How do I add that?
You can
empathy. Yes, empathy underscore wellness center. And that's the one, that's the at empathy wellness center, at empathy underscore wellness center. That's the Instagram handle. And then right here listed below is my email.
Praise be to Allah. I need one last thing before we close. If you enjoyed tonight's program, if you enjoyed the STEM files, if you're ready for part 2, I need Black Fist in the comments. I need Black Fist in the comments, because sometimes we don't know. We see the questions and everything too. We want to make sure this is content that you all enjoy, that you're gathering good insights from. And that, again, we remind everyone that we are not simply Black in STEM, right? Black is STEM. If Black is the essence from which all color comes, right, then in the very fabric of reality and existence is science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. Thank you, thank you. I'm seeing these Black fists. I think I saw my little sis Mariam in the comments. That might be who I was speaking about. Praise be to, I think that, yes, praise be to Allah. Thank you. And the Black fists are flooding in. Thank y'all so much, family. Really appreciate it. And thank you just for sticking with us. I know, Tariq, we've been kicking it since 2015, 2016, and continue to get better, every year. So this is just awesome, an awesome experience, an awesome feeling. And we just look forward to continue to serve our community.
Absolutely. And family, once again, thank you all for tuning in. This has been the voice of STEM talent and Black culture, where we highlight the best and brightest in science, technology, engineering, and mathematics in the Black and Brown communities. Tariq Cardiac, Chief Mechanic, Jabril Engineer, Sister Ine Saka, right here from Richmond, Virginia. And like Sister Sabrina said, we definitely look forward to working with you in the community and all the things that we'll be doing with the Ministry of Health and Human Services. But family, once again, thank you all for tuning in. Peace.
You believe in these false prophets, I say I bet he lying. No football, New York City Giants. Girl dad, rest in peace to Kobe Bryant. When we teaching our babies, we teach them heavy science. Heavy science. Heavy science. When we teaching our women, we teach them heavy science. Heavy science. Heavy science. When we teach men, we teach them.
Peace, I'm Ine Saka, integrative psychiatric nurse practitioner, coming to you to talk about how to integrate holistic practices with